My name is Joan Tabachnik, and I'm co-chair of the Prevention Committee of ATSA.
And I am Sally Thigpen, co-chair of the Prevention Committee at ATSA as well.
And just wanted to welcome you to this video. We're really excited that, to have a chance to highlight some of the things that ATSA members are doing. People often talk about how ATSA is working with sex offenders, which is true, but what really at the base of the mission of ATSA is about preventing sexual violence. And I think some of the stories that you'll hear are some really incredible stories of what people have done, mostly in their own time and in their spare time, using the expertise they have about working with offenders and applying them to how to prevent sexual violence.
Which, for me, is really the power of ATSA members. There's so much knowledge and information that you own as ATSA members that no one else really knows. And so being able to create connections in your community, I think, can really inform the work of prevention at the community level in ways that no one else can inform. So I'm kind of hoping that through the work of the Prevention Committee at ATSA we can provide opportunities to have more inroads to those kind of relationships at the community level. So I think that's where the power is.
Prevention work for 36 years now, and that started by working with sexuality education, which started with sex offenders and started with women who were survivors of abuse and women who were prostituted. And in the course of that, started hearing a lot about child sexual abuse and got interested in preventing it before it happened. But I've always juggled between sexual health and sexual violence, between offenders and survivors, between children and adults. I've never been in any one of those things alone. They've all come together under the umbrella of prevention. So from the beginning to now, I see that the work between victim advocates and those that treat offenders is critical for prevention.
I realize historically the largest part of the membership has been folks who are involved in treatment, which is great. Obviously that's an important arena, but there are people from law enforcement, probation, parole, child advocacy, a variety of other arenas where they're interested in the work of the organization and the people in this field because they want to prevent sexual abuse. They might not be involved in the treatment of sexual offenders, but they are concerned about prevention of sexual abuse. And then more broadly, we know from every arena of health and mental health I can think of that you get better bang for the buck in investing in prevention efforts.
About 3 or 4 years ago, the Minnesota Sex Offender Program administration changed, and when we came over, we made some, I think, some profound shifts in this structure of an SVP. And one of the pieces that we did was that we hired a full-time person for prevention, and this person is starting to go out with giving a business card saying, I work for the Civilly Committed Sex Offenders of Minnesota, and by the way, my whole job is about prevention. And it stops people in their tracks in a good way. And so when we have to go to the legislature and explain why our program costs so much money, we bring our prevention person with and says, oh, by the way, we don't need to be spending this much money, and here's some ideas about how to decrease costs of an SVP for the generations to come. So,
myself sitting on planes often, and people will start asking what I do, and I've just started to talk about it, and I've had emails back from these people that have been on planes, and they've sort of said, oh, I was talking to my family about what you were doing, and so a bit of a snowball effect just from talking about it amongst our own social networks. And then I think jumping at opportunities where there's ways of going beyond our own social networks, like with the media, and buddying up with other organisations in our communities that work in the sexual violence field, be it victim advocates, police, everyone is involved in finding solutions to this problem.
I view everything that we do as a prevention strategy. Either we want to prevent abuse from ever occurring, sexual violence from ever occurring, but if it does occur, let's at least prevent it from occurring again and prevent the long-term negative sequelae. We have great value in learning from one another and sharing amongst ourselves.
So one thing I'd like to encourage ATSA members, particularly the clinicians, to do is to talk about their work with pride, and to start off by telling people that they're preventing sexual violence. They're performing a very important service for all of us, and personally I couldn't do it, so I really admire those that do. It's very tough work. It takes a special kind of person, and they need to talk about it with a lot of pride and not be silent about it, so that it will help dispel some of the fears that people have that are getting in the way of us making rational public policy and public decisions. So speak out with pride.
Your expertise based on those stories that you hear day in and day out is vital to prevention. We need you at the table.